Hello, hello, hello.
What a fun time.
We're here, we're live.
I'm so excited to be here.
So, we are, for anyone here or watching this back later, my name is Lizzie from Lizzie's Literary Life, and this is Danielle from Danielle Reads, and we host the Throwback Book Club.
I definitely almost
So, so,
I was gonna say it everywhere.
we today are discussing The Hunger Games. Which
Wow.
we oh, you have them!
Uh,
I
yeah,
already
take that
returned
for
mine to the
valid.
library.
I was about to, and I was like, wow, I should just keep them till the end of the day.
Yeah. So we are here to discuss. I'm just gonna put a message in the Discord that we're live real quick.
Perfect. I'll entertain the crowd. How are you? What'd you think? Are you so happy to be here? Are you having a good day? Did you drink water today? Please drink water. Water is important.
Okay,
Trying to think of what else I could entertain them with, but it wasn't working.
that's okay. No worries. So what is there any other intro things we should talk about?
I'm sure Lizzie will put a link to the Discord down below if you're interested in joining for
Yes.
next month's picks.
Yes, there is a
We
Discord link down below.
basically, and we'll do these book clubs in general if you ever want to join. We're usually doing like one series every 2 months to give you an indication of when you can jump in or what kind of obligation it'll be.
Yep.
And don't forget to subscribe to Lizzie because she's great.
Oh, and Danielle is linked in the description below, so go and subscribe to her as well.
Thanks. But that's probably it.
That's probably it. Okay, The Hunger Games. What an
What did you
experience.
think about revisiting the Hunger Games?
I loved it. I had a great time rereading these. And I'm so glad I had this opportunity to do so. Like, just so fun. So fun.
It was everything I wanted. It was great.
Yeah.
I love these books in general so much. And I think I was one of the people who's reread them the most recently because
Oh,
I
when
read
did
them
you reread them?
less than 5 years ago when I was in school. So
Wow. Yeah. So I
that's
hadn't I think I only ever read Catching Fire and Mockingjay once, when I was, like, 12, and then the first book I read multiple times. I might have read Catching Fire a couple times, but the first book I reread a few times, but I definitely hadn't read any of them since I was probably 15,
I was gonna say,
14
do
or
you actually want
15.
to like share a little bit like when you first read it, what were the vibes, what team were you, what did you feel, those kind of things?
Yes. So, I read these probably first when I was, like, 12, um, and I was team Gale, which is a hot take.
The spice. You might have said that in the chat, but it's
I think
still
I did.
spicy.
But I wanted Katniss to get with Peeta because I felt like that made sense story-wise, but I liked Gale for my own lesbian self. So,
That's that's the Twilight life for me. I was always like Edward, Edward for Bella, Jacob for me. So like I
yeah,
get that.
yeah. And I I loved the first 2. I actually did not like Mockingjay when I read it, um, as a kid. I did not like Mockingjay. And then, um yeah, and I read, the first couple around the time that the first movie came out,
Mm.
so that was fun, I guess. They were, like, really popular at that time, obviously. So, yeah.
I talked to you a little bit about it before the show just now, but
Mhm.
I first read The Hunger Games because My middle school, actually, it was like either 7th, maybe 7th grade. I'm just gonna say 7th. Could have been 8th or 6th, but
Yeah,
we everybody had to read The Hunger Games. That was like the required reading for the
required
district.
reading.
Well, at least for like the
Okay.
school and probably neighboring schools. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. Required reading. And then the field trip was we all went to go see the movie when it came out,
Wow.
which was super, super fun. Like the whole school went, but then also it was kind of tea because the whole school went, but the night before I had convinced my mom to go to the midnight release, so I saw it already before everybody at school. Because like we went that midnight.
Wow.
I know I'm so, but we went at midnight just so that I could go to school and then watch it with everybody, even though I'd already seen it.
That's funny.
Oh,
I Yeah, I didn't see it in theaters, even though I was, like, into it right around the time it came out. Just I didn't go to movies very often, like, my parents never took me to movies, and I was kind of I feel like I was a little young to be, like, going out to the movies by myself with my friends. So, it was like and my parents didn't just that wasn't the vibe. So, I watched it I think I downloaded it illegally from the internet and watched it, like, a year or
Fire.
so later. So,
I
yeah.
the only one I haven't seen in theaters. I saw. Yeah, we can go to the comments first, and then we'll jump back.
Yeah. Ruby
Ruby.
is here. Ruby did not reread, but came for the tea, which is valid.
But Rupert
Adri
is reading magical creatures with us. I hope.
yes, yes. Adriana is out skiing, but wanted to say hi, so hello.
Whoa.
Um, what were you saying? The only one you haven't seen in theaters is the new one?
Was the one? Yep. But
Yeah.
I remember a couple things like distinctly in my memory is I
Mhm.
definitely had a Mockingjay pin, like a
Ooh.
metal, like nice Mockingjay pin that I would wear. And then I got distracted. I would also oh, we did like vocabulary words to go with this book. So it was kind of fun to reread because certain ones I'd be like, oh, I remember when that was a vocab word.
It's funny that you, like, say it was required reading and, like, your mom took you to see the movie because I don't think I said this in the chat, but it must have been when the teaser trailer came out for the first movie. Um, my friend sent it to me, but on email because we were, and didn't have phones. So my friend emailed me. It must have been the teaser trailer because it was like early, and my dad had access to all my emails when I was a kid, and he saw that my friend had sent me that and watched it and was like, "This is way too violent and awful for my child to be seeing." And like deleted it from my email before I could see it. And it was like a huge deal. It was very dramatic. And I never actually saw it, but I remember like it was just like inappropriate. So,
That's it is so interesting because my school, like the teacher that taught this was definitely the favorite English teacher. Like she was
mhm,
everybody's favorite. And I could not every single kid was eating this book up. Like
yeah.
there was not a single complaint when it was time to read The Hunger Games in class. Which is so
Uh-huh.
interesting because like other books, like when I was reading To Kill a Mockingbird, I remember nobody caring.
Yeah.
Uh, but this, it was like the literacy of like having something that kids are engaging with is so important, and it was really
Yeah.
fun. It was cool.
Though I also think like there's a different attitude. I mean, like what the school I used to work at, the kids all read Amari and the Night Brothers.
Really?
And yeah, and they hated it. Most of them did, just because they were forced to read it. And it's like that. I mean, there's that kind of like dichotomy of like, would I like this if I wasn't being forced to read it? But it also I think is like a generational, not that it's that far apart in time, but like it's just a different time now. But um yeah,
Fascinating.
fascinating. Do we want to talk about each book specifically? Or do we have anything? Yeah? Where should we
Yeah.
start?
Ooh, I think we should start with Hunger Games. I feel like we should do publication
Yeah,
order.
publication order. I just had such a good time rereading this one.
Me
Like,
too.
it just is so fun.
It is so, and you just, oh, it's so good. It is so good. Did you do just physical?
I
I
did
watched your,
physical for the original trilogy, and then I did
yeah.
audio for Ballad.
I did audio for these, which was interesting because when I was younger, or not younger,
Mhm.
5 years ago, when I reread it,
Yeah.
I loved the audiobooks. I thought they were amazing. I was so into it. Rereading with the audio now, I was really annoyed by the narrator's portrayal of Katniss specifically.
Mm.
She was really making her seem just a lot more girly pop, like just a lot more girly,
Uh-huh.
and it a little more like airheaded almost,
Uh-huh.
versus in my opinion of Katniss being a little more like she might be confused, but I didn't see her as airheaded or anything.
Yeah.
Uh,
I actually started or I listened to, like, 5 seconds of the audiobook of Catching Fire because I wanted to listen to that one on audio, and I did not like the narration, and so I stopped. So,
I liked yeah, it was just really frustrating. It was really putting a damper on it for a bit, but I pushed through.
yeah. I feel like do we need to
Okay.
talk about plot at all, or does everyone know what these are about? I feel like
Oh yeah,
everyone
I feel like warning, we're probably gonna get into spoilers pretty
we'll
quickly.
get into spoilers for sure as we get into the later books.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard not even to certain characters you're just immediately gonna have gut reactions to.
Yeah. Um, ooh, one thing that's fun, this is a movie thing, but I was obsessed with Amanda Stenberg who plays Rue.
Mm,
I was obsessed with her because I was, like, the same age
I
as the
remember
actress.
that's
So,
that's crazy.
I
That's
remember being around the same age as her. I'm gonna Google how old she is right
which
now.
makes sense though, because I think you're like 2 or 3 years younger than me.
Yeah,
Which doesn't feel like much when you're an adult, but when you're a child, it's quite a
I know.
difference.
Oh, she's 25 right now.
Mm,
She was born in 1998, so she's a little older than me.
me, she's my age. That's
Yeah,
crazy. Anywho,
yeah,
um, I was just like I was like shook that she was your age, and then she's my age, so that's
yeah,
interesting.
so, well, I was right.
But I remember the huge discourse with the fact that she was black. I
Yeah.
remember the news articles and the uproar that they had cast a black girl to be Rue.
And even though, like, in the books, I feel like it's pretty clear that, like I feel
Because
like it
District,
works with what's said in the book.
yeah,
I feel like she's described as having a darker skin tone. Not necessarily that she's black, but that she's like people from District 11 are more maybe they're just saying they're in the sun, they're tan, but I the way that I interpreted that, maybe because I was reading it after seeing the movie, but I interpreted it as like as that.
I do remember
Mhm.
the drama that instilled, and I think
Mhm.
I remember the same way too, just being like, it's a character,
Yeah.
it can be whatever.
Cinna
It doesn't
too. I
matter.
remember that same thing about Cinna.
Yes. Oh, you know what was so interesting? Sorry, this. Okay, we are having an important conversation part, but hot take: I don't really like Lenny Kravitz as Cinna.
Huh.
I like Lenny Kravitz, and I like
Uh-huh.
his portrayal of Cinna. I think that I had a problem with the way that they directed him in that role.
Hmm.
I just feel like he was a little bit like the book, like book Cinna to me is just so much better. Which
Yeah.
obviously, but like even when we were watching, like especially when he first introduces her, it's just every time he was in a scene with her, maybe it was their chemistry was off or something, but I just didn't feel the connection as much as I really
I
wanted
feel
to.
like he is a little, like, trying to be sexy, maybe?
Mhm.
A little bit? Like, not in an overt way, but, like, I feel like there's an undertone of that.
I like because I love Lenny, and I do think like he embodies Cinna very well. but just like the way that like certain lines would be chosen to be delivered weren't my favorite. But
Mhm.
as a character, Cinna has my heart.
Yeah, adore Senna. Are we gonna talk about if the books or the movies were better?
If that's your question, we can do it right now.
Yeah.
At least of what we've watched so far. So we've only watched up to Catching Fire so far.
Yes. We've rewatched Hunger Games and Catching Fire, and I never saw the Mockingjay movies. I only ever saw the first 2. So the next one we watch will be new to me.
That's spicy. So we still have to watch
Yeah.
Mockingjay Part 1, Mockingjay Part 2, and Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Mhm. But I personally believe that the books are much better. I think the movies are good. I think they're good adaptations, but especially reading and watching so close together, it's like I'm watching the movies like my imagination does it so much better, Like all of the visuals and like especially on the chariot, I'm looking at them like this has nothing on my imagination. Special effects can do nothing compared to what my imagination can do.
I haven't actually considered this question because I'm probably a little more torn on that than you are.
Mm,
I think it's hard to say if one can be. It would be hard to say the movies are better because the books
mhm.
stand they're so strong on their own. But
Yeah.
the things that I think the movie does better is especially the character of Effie. Um,
Mhm.
am I allowed to light spoil the movie for you, Lizzie? It's really not a big spoiler.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, Effie in the books does not continue to District 13.
Yeah.
Effie in the movies continues to District 13.
Oh.
So Effie acts as the stylists do in the books.
Oh.
And
That
the way
makes
that
sense
the
because they
movie
removed the stylists from the first
yes.
movie.
And she gets way more humanity, and Elizabeth Banks just did a phenomenal job in that role. Elizabeth
Mhm.
Banks was like, "I'm taking this role and I'm making it a character." Um,
Yeah.
and it's much more, it just really humanizes, and I just really love Effie as a character because of movie Effie. So
Mhm.
that's, like, a big thing for that, and then in general, Catching Fire is one of my favorite movie adaptations of all time.
Mm.
It is just a perfect adaptation in my opinion. It is so well done.
Yeah. I guess I also just, like, as a medium, like books so much better than I like movies. Like, I don't necessarily like movies in general. Like, I'm not a movie person. So, I'm naturally gonna like the books better, but that doesn't mean they are better. Ruby, do
The
you have an opinion on this? Do you think the movies are better? I feel like you may have said that
That's good.
asked that because you have an opinion.
She did make I don't know if you saw her new comment, but yeah, she was agreeing
Yeah.
that, yeah, Elizabeth Banks was like, "Oh, you're giving me Effie? Let me tell you what I can make Effie into."
Yeah.
But in general, these movies, the casting goes hard. Like, it is
Mhm.
so and I think the Oscars just said that they're gonna no, maybe not. Either there's, like, people talking about it or they said they were gonna add a category for casting, or someone was like, "You should
Mm.
have a category for casting because it can be so important." And just everybody in these movies are so good. The guy that plays Snow, I wish I knew the name off the top of my head,
Mm.
but he was a pretty big actor at the time, and he
Yeah.
read the role and was like, "Oh, I need to be President Snow. You don't understand."
Yeah.
And they did that. And then same with like the fact that we have in Catching Fire and Mockingjay and stuff, we have I just cannot remember names right now. I know these names, I just can't remember them. But the guy who plays Plutarch, him being such a big
Mhm.
actor, it's very interesting. He passed away while doing Mockingjay. So some of the last film I remember was one of the first films to start using CGI for actor scenes to bring them in,
Mhm.
and it does it much better than Star Wars ever did. They didn't try too hard for Mockingjay, so it works.
I will say, there was I don't know why this moment is sticking out to me, but I think I mentioned this while we were watching it. The moment at the party when Plutarch has that conversation with Katniss, we're getting into Catching Fire, but in the Catching Fire movie, when Plutarch has that conversation with Katniss, I felt like the book version they like took everything, they took out everything that made that conversation special in the book. Like,
Mhm.
they didn't have the watch thing, they didn't have the "I'll meet you at midnight," like,
Mm.
none of that was there, and that hints at so much about what Plutarch's gonna become as a character, that it was like, "Why didn't you do that?"
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Ruby says, "I only read them once, and it was not long after publication, but I think they're good adaptations for sure." Yeah, they're definitely good adaptations. But I prefer books in most cases, I'm sure this would be the same for me.
Yeah. One thing
Yeah.
I was thinking while I was watching and, like, reading these, but I think you see it a little more obviously, like, the scenes of Snow aren't in the books. When Snow is, like,
Mhm.
being a creep and getting angry at
Yeah.
what's going on and threatening, the game maker and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I remember his name now is Don Sutherland, but
Okay.
I can't believe that after what happened in the Hunger Games, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna trust this game maker again. I'm gonna listen to what this guy suggests again." I was just like, "Okay, you gotta cut Snow. Now you're being stupid. Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing?"
Yeah. I don't know, I felt like those scenes I like that at the end when it's like, "Oh, you're in trouble for this," after the berries,
Mhm.
when Haymitch tells Katniss she's in trouble, I liked that that was kind of a surprise because it's a surprise to Katniss. She wasn't thinking about it as a rebellion thing. And so, like, with us being like, we've seen this all through kind of Katniss's eyes, and then suddenly, oh, there's a different perspective on this. I kind of liked that not I kind of liked not having that different perspective until that point.
Katniss in general is so fascinating because the whole time, from the beginning when she volunteered for her sister, she had no bigger plan. Like
Yeah.
it was just so genuinely who she was to the core that there was no
Mhm.
ulterior motives. Which is, and then when
Yeah.
she does have to perform and she does have to be the Mockingjay, she struggles so much with it because that's not
Yeah.
who she is.
Yeah.
The second book is when I really was starting to get super frustrated. Like, I just started getting really frustrated while I was rereading it, knowing all the people around her that knew the bigger plot but kept it from her. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily think it was the wrong move. Like,
Mhm.
how, she is a 17-year-old girl in Catching Fire.
Yeah.
Should we just be switching on to Catching Fire?
Yes, we're officially in Catching Fire territory.
We can always touch back on Hunger Games if we have any points to make
Yeah,
again.
that's
But
fine.
she's like a 17-year-old girl, and I do agree that, like, it's hard to not trust her, or it's hard to trust that she won't accidentally mess something up. But it's just you love her so much that it hurts thinking about how many people kept things from her.
Yeah.
Oh, that
I was
scene when she realizes that sorry, but the scene when she realizes, like, that Haymitch chose her instead of Peta is heartbreaking. It's a
yeah.
horrible.
Um, this so when I was a kid, the first book was my favorite, by far, because I just thought it was so fun, and I didn't really have an appreciation for the, like, larger themes at age 12, you know? Um, but this time around, Catching Fire was definitely my favorite, um, because it still had that element of fun because we were still in the games, we were still, like, the the intensity, like, the energy was still up, and the intrigue, but there was we were getting into the themes and what the book series is really saying, um sorry, I'm reading Ruby's comment. I'll get there in a second.
I can come back to that. I just don't want to forget my thought on this either, real quick. Do you
Yeah,
finish and then I?
um well, I kind of already forgot what I was saying, but I just like Catching Fire as like a and it's unusual for like the middle book in a series to be the best one, but I think in this case it is because the series progresses so much and Catching Fire kind of has a bit of the charm of the first one and a bit of the seriousness of Mockingjay that like blends together perfectly.
That's a great way. I think that's a great way to break it down. I when I first read them, I gave the first book 5 stars, the second book 5 stars, and the last book 3 stars. Catching Fire was like also one of my favorites.
Mhm.
The thing that you mentioned though, of just like how brilliant it is to have to write a sequel. Like how do you write the sequel to the Hunger Games? Because people, just like the Capitol, we want the gore of the games. Like how are you not going to give us
Yeah.
the glitz and glam that we liked from the first book? And for her to be like, okay, the games,
Mhm.
but a twist, was just so smart. The quarter quell in
Yeah.
general is so scary.
Yeah. And it's like it really drives home that like the capital does not care about anyone. Like, and Snow does not care about anyone. These and everything can be upended on you. You promise that you never be in the games again, promise that you'll never have to do this again, and then oops, yeah, no, we actually don't care about you.
Um, and just the existence of the quarter quell is just the fact like every 25 years. And so even like when it came out, I remember I was like one of those crazy people on YouTube who's like watching like in-depth backstory videos of these books. And there's like, so the original quarter, like the first quarter quell for the 25th anniversary, the districts had to vote the person in,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
wild. And then the second one for the 50th was twice as many
Twice
kids.
as many, and that was when Haymitch won.
Yes. And it's just, oh, and the trauma for Haymitch when he like found out that it had to be the same thing. Oh, just the
Mhm.
deal that he makes with Katniss too, to be like, I will volunteer, and then it doesn't work out. Oh, sorry, let's
Yeah.
go to Ruby because I'm overwhelmed.
Okay. Um, so Connor just made Ruby aware of this, but thinking about the 12 districts as being a future USA, District 12 is Coal Country, aka Appalachia. And
District
there's
11 was
someone online reading
too. Sorry, but I think District 11 was
District
like
11
Georgia.
was, yeah, that makes sense. Reading Katniss lines in that accent, missed opportunity.
Mm,
Um, the allegory hits too strong sometimes. Yeah. Um, yeah, I was like, I guess we'll get to it when we get to it. I was gonna say something about Mockingjay, but
yeah,
yeah,
but
um,
yeah, you can find maps online of like what the breakdown of it
where
would
they
be.
are, yeah.
Because I think toward Maine and stuff is District 13. Because
Mm.
in
Because they do
Ballad,
always mention that being north.
and in Ballad, so it's like, let's run away north, let's run away north.
Yeah.
And District 13.
Yeah.
Um, the only thing though, and I do want to go back just a smidgen to Hunger Games because I did forget to talk about very
Uh-huh.
important. The If I had to choose a scene that like I'm most disappointed didn't make it, and I was most disappointed when I watched originally,
Mhm.
was not including District 11 paying for
The
a
bread.
yes. The fact that they
Yeah.
did not show paying for the community, because even Katniss says this is the first time in Hunger Games history that's happened.
Yeah.
That
A
whole
district that's not has sent something to attribute that's not theirs.
and she's like, it had to have been all of their savings. She's like,
Mhm.
it had to have cost more than that community could afford.
Yeah.
And that was crazy. And then also reading it, like going off with that, but in her conversation with Ruth, she talks so much about how District 12, though they're starving and in horrible conditions, they're kind of left alone and neglected
Yeah.
versus District 11 being so strongly imposed upon.
Yeah, and then, um, in Catching Fire, they bring in all the peacekeepers, and they start to have a little bit more surveillance, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, we had it okay." Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, they're starving, but it could be worse.
But that's the only part of the Hunger Games I think is a really important moment that I
Mhm.
wonder how Suzanne Collins felt about that scene being left out because I feel like it's a very important scene.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, But then otherwise though, I'm kind of think I don't really have a
Right.
ton of that for Catching Fire. Like I do think it's a really good. I think that you made a good point about the Plutarch scene. Like could have been a little better done, but
Mhm.
I didn't have any scenes that I was like angry weren't in the movie.
Yeah.
Think about. I'd be ready to go on to Mockingjay if we are. Which, by
Mockingjay.
the
So
way,
this is
these covers,
yeah, the
iconic.
covers are stunning. Yeah,
So
very
good.
iconic, very gorgeous.
Oh, so good.
Um,
So
so I did not like Mockingjay when I read it when I was growing up. I thought it was boring, and then I thought, and this is like a major spoiler, but I thought the fact that Prim died, I was like, that makes the whole series useless, and I didn't realize the significance of that, like is thematically resonant, the fact that that happens. I just kind of didn't get it. I just was so mad that that happened, and I thought it shouldn't have happened. Um, and
I thought go ahead.
this time around, it was still my least favorite um, just because it was less engaging to me, the intrigue wasn't as high, because of my personal, like, taste in terms of action sequences and war plotting and stuff is just not my favorite, to read about, but I totally see the value of it in terms of bringing the series together and, the thematic what it has to say, like, the other 2 could not stand without Mockingjay. I think they would not be the same. Obviously, they would not be the same, but it wouldn't be what it is at all without this last book.
I loved how you described it in your vlog, which if you haven't watched Lizzie's vlog, hurry, go watch it. I loved what you had to say though about like the senselessness of death and war
Mhm.
and the point of it. I just thought that was you
Yeah.
said it really well with his death of just how what how did you say it? You were like unnecessary death.
I don't remember. But
You said
but yeah,
it's
like,
just
it is I think what was irritating to me when I was a kid was that, like, it makes the whole her volunteering, it makes it pointless, it undoes everything she was working towards, but that's what war does. It's not about the people.
more
It's not, war
yeah.
is like, it's senseless violence.
Senseless violence.
Um,
Sorry, you said a term. Senseless violence. I think is
yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but this one, it also thinking about um, President Coin and
Mm,
um, District 13 and the like all of the politics of war. It was honestly it was hard to read in places just because of stuff that's going on in the world right now. And
mm,
like I just
mm.
was thinking about like war and like I don't want to get too much into like actual real world politics, but like just thinking about like what
This is for escapism. This club.
I know. But I was just like the allegory to like it was hitting hard. It was hitting hard is what I
Like
have to
Ruby said,
say.
it hits a little too strong sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, because I think we should talk about some certain things and how it is a reflection, which is crazy that we're back in another time where it's reflecting things, but
Uh-huh.
uh, still fun. Feeling like we're 12 again is what we want from this.
Exactly.
Uh,
That's what we're here for.
yeah. One thing that I love though is that Susan Collins didn't make them too long. Like
Yeah,
they're good where she was
they
very
are good
intentional.
links.
I don't need to extend this out a bunch.
Yeah.
And I think if this would have
Um,
been any longer, it would have been pretty unbearable.
yeah, I agree. There
There is no,
there is no escapism. There is no escape. Not in my brain anyway.
I
Agreed.
just want to feel like I'm 12 and not worry about stuff again.
I know. It totally went way over my head when I was 12, so, um, but
How did you feel about obviously this book has to do with rebellion and finally it coming to full head and blah blah blah. How do you feel about the idea of them having done another Hunger Games? Like what
I thought that was so, like, so on brand for Coin to suggest it. Because she suggested it, right? Yeah. Um And I think it really shows what happens when people get so bogged down in violence against the other side and like an us versus them. When like that's not what the goal is. The goal is freedom for everyone, not to switch it around, you know? Um and
That's when I think that that's the moment that was the moment Katniss was like, "This is another dictator."
yeah, though
Because
Katniss agrees. Katniss is so emotionally, I think she's just so emotionally raw after Prim that she is like, "Yeah, fuck them." Oh, oops.
tough in mine.
Um, yeah.
No, I definitely. It's
So
just it's one of those things where it's like, Katniss is fragile from the death of her sister, but
mhm,
it that shift is really the part of the
yeah,
book where you're going, okay, this is not a solution.
yeah, and then also I think
It's kind
that
of upset
Katniss
with herself.
the fact that Katniss says yes to it also, I think, like, drives home the point that, individuals should not be making decisions about groups of people's lives, you know?
Mhm,
Like, as a individual she's 18 years old, and she's like,
mhm.
"Yeah, let's kill 24 kids," you know? Like, individuals it's because she's hurting, it's because of all these things, but that's why, like, an individual should not be making decisions like that.
Does the vote happen before the vote happens before she finds out it was rebel bombs, right?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's a huge betrayal right there. That was
Mhm. The
for
fact
2
that, like, they don't
Vita.
care. Yeah. They don't care who they're killing, and, like, that's another thing that's, like, collateral damage in war. It's like, there's it's just I don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't remember if this quote is written this way in the book. I just can't remember. But the movie Don Sutherland as Snow has a
Mhm.
really good quote where he's like, "Why would I? I'm not into senseless violence. Even the Hunger Games is intentional.
Yeah.
It wasn't causing senseless death. Like he was like, I'm not going to waste life. When I take life, it's
Uh-huh.
intentional."
Yeah.
Just so good. Honestly, the Mockingjay movies are pretty good. Like it was one of the
I don't know
early.
why they split it into 2. I feel like that was not necessary, and I haven't watched them. Maybe I'll feel like it is once I watch them, but having at this point, it's not a longer book than the other ones. So,
If
like, I don't feel like it needed to be 2 movies.
if I remember from when I watched them though, they're it's a very good adaptation as well. It
Mm.
I think that splitting it up works when you see how they did split it. It makes quite a bit of sense. I could tell you, but I don't want to if you don't want to know yet. But it
Yeah,
just it
we'll see.
did it. They did a good way of staggering it because of course some of it is like how much money can we make, obviously.
Mhm.
It is cool that they were able to do so much detail and explaining because you're obviously not in Katniss's head the way that you are in the book. So they
Mhm.
had to have more scenes showing stuff. And I think that the movies are very, very good. I think they did a really good job. So I'm excited for you to watch them.
Okay.
I'm also
Yeah.
excited because the representation of mutations in the
Uh-huh.
third book is like way more than the mutts in the first book movie. I meant movie, not
Mm.
book. But the third movie I think does a
Okay.
much better job with mutts than the first movie did.
Okay. It was just
Yeah.
trendy at the time to do 2 movies for a finale, yeah, for sure.
I just agree and I think that for sure. But it wasn't bad. And maybe it's too because obviously we're just book people that I love
Mhm.
more of the scenes that you can.
Yeah.
And I don't know, actually, now that I think about it though, like I remember being annoyed when a lot of movies would be split up because Harry Potter, Hunger Games, like everything that was doing that, and Twilight, like all of it. But I don't think there's any of those that did that I didn't enjoy because you just got more book
Mm.
content.
Yeah. I can see that.
My wallet was unhappy, but I was do you wanna go into ballad then, real quick?
Yeah.
You weren't a fan.
I was not a fan. I gave it 2 stars. I didn't like it.
I've gone back and forth, so my highest I've honestly gone, like, 4 ratings since I've read this. Um, Here, we'll go to Ruby first. I was just if you saw what they said. That's fair.
OOTP, what's that? Once upon the princess? I just
Orange
made that up.
on Orange on the page. Orange. Ooh, to once in yeah, I don't know what that is, Rupert.
Outfit of the
Outfit of the play.
Order of the
But
Phoenix. I got there.
Phoenix. That makes sense. Mm. I don't even honestly, my brain never even read the full comment she wrote. I was just stuck on Utapa. So that movie made me rage. I just finished that. But for the ballad book, so I've gone as far as 4 stars for a little bit.
Wow.
Mostly because I do think Suzanne Collins' writing is just so good. I was honestly like I was still
Mm.
reading because I like her writing so much. I think she is a very talented storyteller. Then I've definitely gone down a bit and I'm dipping more to the 3. I've kind of finalized in like a 3 at most 3.5. Because I do agree that like I didn't it kept going. I was ready for the book to end 200 pages earlier than it did.
Yeah.
And this is the first where I was like, okay, yep, she just did the money of how much can I keep writing. This is one that's very
Yeah.
long. It's long the other ones.
I really felt like it was written just to make a movie
Now
because
there's go ahead.
especially because of like the songs and stuff, there were so many song lyrics in this book and it was like why do this many if you're not going to make a movie and like do those. Like I just felt like it was just a movie cash grab.
Yes, and here's my problem. I am so excited for the movie. I love Rachel Zegler. And I think the movie's gonna be a 5 out of 5. Like I'm so excited. So I do agree, but maybe she should have
Mhm.
just done a screenplay or something and not made it a whole book. Because I
Yeah.
would have
I also I don't feel like this was the prequel story we wanted or needed. I think that of
no,
all of the prequel stories we could have gotten, a Snow backstory is not what we wanted or needed. I don't think it adds anything to the theme of the series.
I agree. I agree 100%. Um, Especially with how much her messages were, like what her messages were in the original series, it doesn't match.
Mhm. It doesn't
Um,
match. I feel like if we need a prequel, it could have been,
Everybody wanted.
um,
I
Finnick.
remember. Yeah,
Yeah, it could have been the original rebellion and the destruction of District 13.
could
It
have been
could have
Hamish.
been I think even what?
Hamish's story.
Hamish's story. Even the 25th Quarter Quell, even though like 25th Hunger Games, even though we don't know any of those characters, I feel like to have a completely standalone like that with the voting, that could have been fun. Um, but giving backstory to Snow, even getting backstory from Coin could have been interesting because that's like
Mm,
a more interesting story. That's what my brother said, or my brother's girlfriend. After he watched my vlog, he texted me and said, "Oh, my girlfriend said, we should have gotten a backstory of Coin." Let me actually see what it was she said because I thought it was really interesting. Um, if it had to be about a villain, it should have been about Coin because a resistance leader turning evil is a lot more interesting than trying to make us sympathize with fascist sad boy, which I thought was funny and also true. Um,
very
because
true.
I don't want to sympathize with Snow, and I didn't feel like I did.
So I guess
I don't think he did it effectively.
that's
Okay.
where I really struggled. When the first 70% of the book
Uh-huh.
focuses, I feel like you're obviously following Snow, but it felt like it had more to do with the games. So I was more on board
Mhm.
and I was more engaged and I was more, that's where I was getting more of like my almost 4-star, because I was like, this is
Mhm.
fun. I still love her writing. Seeing the horrificness of what the Capitol does, and also honestly seeing what the war did to the Capitol was interesting too. The cannibalism that he witnessed, like stuff like that, was really interesting, and it did make more
Mhm.
sense to why Snow is the way he is because he did deal with some traumatic things. That being said,
Mhm.
once it makes that shift to only focusing on Snow as a character, it really lost me because I
Yeah.
didn't care, and I didn't care.
Though I also thought that the portrayal of the games was so much less interesting than it was in Hunger Games or Catching Fire. Like, it was just not exciting in the way that the other games were.
Which I actually did like personally, mostly because it was interesting seeing all the things to know that Snow would change. So it was
Mhm.
interesting to see like the tributes being treated horribly and how he's like nobody's even watching these games. It's interesting to see how he shifts it to they're treated like royalty while they're there, and then it's forced to watch. Like that stuff was really interesting to me, how he
Yeah.
influenced. But then, like I said, but then once it starts getting to Snow as a character, I stopped caring. When it was about the
Yeah.
games as an entity, it was super interesting.
I agree that that was interesting. I just felt like the descriptions of what was happening in the 10th games were really
Pretty bland.
boring.
Pretty bland.
Bland, yeah. Um,
Uh,
and
an interesting
maybe that was the point, but it just was not engaging.
an interesting parallel is that in Ballad, half the contestants die before the games begin,
Yeah.
and in Catch, I didn't realize in the Hunger Games, half the tributes die in the first night,
Mhm.
which I just thought was interesting. So it basically becomes 12 the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough because once there were so many times then toward like the last 30% of the book, which was like the last few hours, where I was just like, he's being whiny, he's being annoying.
Mhm.
I I can't care for him. I already don't care about him. He's a monster. I'm not going to care about younger him. Even
Yeah.
Lucy Gray, the whole time I was like, she just wants to be free of you, my dude. Let her
Yeah.
go.
She
Let her
also
be
was
free.
very, like, not like other girls as a character, I felt like.
I
Um, yeah.
loved her and Tigress though, those bits that we got. And
Oh, yeah.
Tigress character I thought was really great. I kind of wish we had gotten even more of Tigress. Like even
Mhm.
Tigress, if this whole book had been from Tigress's point of view, that could have been super cool too.
That could have been really cool, yeah. Yeah,
Because
because
she,
I
when you,
agree that, like, the aftermath of the rebellion and what that did to the Capitol is interesting, though I think it could have explored more the us versus them mindset
Mhm.
after, um, afterwards. I think it could have been, and I'm just thinking of this now, but it could have been interesting for them to try to do, like, a parallel of to post-Civil War Reconstruction era, to do,
Mm,
like I don't even know what I'm intending by that, but I think that could have been an interesting way to go in terms of a prequel, like, I guess it wouldn't maybe that's not a good idea because it wouldn't make sense with the rest of where the original series was, but I don't know, I think that could have been an interesting parallel.
I agree. Sorry, that kitten is here. I'm very
Oh,
distracted right now.
hello, kitten.
But no, I think that there were a lot of ways it could have been done better. So I did end up lowering my rating again down to a 3. I probably won't mess with it much more until I see the movie and really get just really complete
Mhm,
my feelings on it. I am really excited for the movie. I just really like I said, I really like Rachel Ziegler, and I think that it'll be fun. But I
mhm.
do agree. It was unnecessary, and it was disappointing that this was the story that she decided to tell. I think there are
Yeah,
more important stories.
yeah. And like I said, it just doesn't do anything thematically to what the rest of the series does. It doesn't add anything to the themes, I felt like. And a prequel story definitely could have a different prequel story.
I agree. Oh, he scared the cat away. Sorry. Anyway, this was so fun
Yeah,
though. I mean, do you
it's
have any
so
other last
fun.
thoughts that you could think of?
Um, I don't think so. I just really enjoyed revisiting these.
Me too.
Um, and
It was a
I
great
think
series.
I liked the original trilogy, I think I liked better than I liked it when I was younger. I definitely liked it differently, and I think I liked it better, which is really fun and interesting, and I don't think that's gonna be the case for very many of the series we read on this in this journey.
How you say liked it differently. I like that
Yeah,
way of thinking of
I
it.
liked different things about it.
And you got different things from it, you
Got
said.
different things out of it, yeah.
So yeah, I'm so excited. So if anybody's joining us for our next one, do we want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Um, we're reading Beautiful Creatures. What did it say
Mhm.
that series was called? I don't even know.
The Castor Chronicles, I think.
The Castor Chronicles.
But the first book is Beautiful Creatures by I don't remember the authors' names.
Me
I
neither.
think there's 2 authors. I think
Catherine
it's, like,
Stoll.
Cami Garcia and
Yeah,
Maureen something. I'm gonna look.
I love that for us. I don't have my phone, or else I would.
Cami Garcia, I was right, and Margaret Stoll.
Oh, I
Stoll.
had Stoll. I said Catherine Stoll.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay. Well, we were 3/4 of the way there together.
we got
So,
there. Yeah, I'm so excited. I remember watching the first one and reading the first one and watching the first movie. I don't think there are more than one movie.
I think there's just
Um,
one movie because I think it flopped, the movie.
I remember it not being good. I
Yeah.
am excited to read them. I don't think they'll be good, but in a fun way. They're definitely like this is like
Yeah.
a great series that holds will be.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a live show where we read the novella together, so that'll be fun.
Yes. So we'll
I'm
do
not
that
sure what
probably. So is the novella, I think the novella was published after the rest of the series, is that true?
I have no idea.
So I think if we read it near the end of like in maybe mid-April and then do our live show at the beginning of May, live show for the whole series at the beginning of May. Does that make sense?
That'll be
Okay.
good.
So we can call that the tentative plan. Thank you, Ruby, for joining us in the chat, and anyone else who is here to watch, and anyone who's watching it back. Um,
It's so
and
fun.
I hope that lots of people join us for Beautiful Creatures. And
Yeah.
thanks,
Don't forget to subscribe.
Danielle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle, for a great discussion.
If you still want to jump into any of the movies, like we said, we have the last 3 still to watch. So we're still gonna do that into the
We'll be watching them in the Discord. Discord is linked down below. You do have
Thanks for
to
having
get your own access to it, and we press play at the same time, but we're chatting through it.
me, Lizzie.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for co-hosting this with me.
So fun.
So okay. Bye.